The loudest sound in our apartment right now is the hum of the refrigerator. It's a low, constant drone that I never noticed when Holden was here, when his off-key humming or the low murmur of a history documentary filled the space. Now it's deafening. It's the soundtrack to the end of my world, the only thing playing in this mausoleum we once called home. I'm sitting on the sofa, the one we spent a whole weekend picking out, and I feel like a coroner examining a body. Except the body is this two-bedroom apartment, and the cause of death was me. A slow-acting poison I administered daily. My eyes are doing a clinical sweep, cataloging the evidence. My throw blanket is still draped over the armchair. My stack of magazines is on the floor, but the room is screaming with his absence. The indentation on the sofa cushion next to me is gone. The wall above the TV is strangely blank, and I realize his framed print of a vintage world map has vanished. My gaze lands on the coffee table, the epicenter of the crime scene. My favorite ceramic mug, a deep blue one, is sitting right where I left it this morning. Next to it is a perfect, dust-free circle on the dark wood. That's where his mug used to be. It was a stupidly cheerful thing, white with a cartoon corgi wearing a crown. He bought it at a street fair, beaming like a kid, and I'd teased him relentlessly for it. Now the ghost of that stupid mug is what's breaking me. You'd think I'd be crying. Hysterical. A normal person would be a wreck, their face buried in the cold cushion where he used to sleep. But I'm just empty. It's a cold, hollow feeling, like someone scooped out my insides and left the shell. My body is refusing to grieve. It's like the emotional circuits have been so overloaded they've just shut down. So I'm just sitting here in the suffocating quiet, performing the autopsy. I have to go back. I have to find the entry wound. I need to pinpoint the exact moment I killed us, even if I have to slice through every memory with a scalpel to find it. This isn't about feeling better. This is about understanding the pathology of my own poison. I met Holden at a friend's rooftop barbecue. He was the center of a laughing group, telling some animated story about getting lost in the subway. I was on the periphery, nursing a lukewarm beer, trying my best to become one with the brick wall behind me. I wasn't there to socialize. I was there to fulfill a social obligation. Then I heard his laugh, a genuine, unforced sound that cut through the dull roar of the party. It made me look up. He wasn't just magnetic, he was kind. He noticed me hiding in the corner and eventually drifted over, not with a cheesy pickup line, but with two freshly grilled hot dogs, offering one to me. "You look like you could use a strategic escape snack," he'd said with a small, conspiratorial smile. At the time, I was a walking wound. A previous relationship had ended with a betrayal so cliché it felt like a bad movie plot. I was left for a less complicated version of myself. It left me with a deep-seated conviction that I was fundamentally disposable, someone people eventually leave when the novelty wears off. Holden saw the shadows I was hiding in and didn't run. He walked right in. He was patient. He listened to my jagged, broken stories and didn't try to fix me. He just made me feel seen. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. His warmth was in everything he did. He learned the name of our mail carrier and asked about his daughter's college applications. He could charm the grumpiest old ladies at the grocery store into smiling. He was my sunshine. But here's the twisted part, the first sign of the sickness that would eventually kill us. I loved his light, but I was terrified of it. Every time he shone it on someone else, a friendly chat with a barista, a laugh with a female colleague, a cold dread would snake its way up my spine. The old trauma would whisper in my ear, "See, he likes them more. He's just practicing on you until someone better comes along. He'll leave you just like the last one." I started to believe that his warmth wasn't a gift to be shared, but a threat. A resource that needed to be contained, to be directed only at me. I should have known better. I should have listened. We were curled up on this very sofa one night, legs tangled together, watching some dumb comedy. During a commercial, he turned to me, his expression suddenly serious. He told me about being bullied as a kid. He wasn't the strong, confident man he was now. He was a scrawny, awkward boy who was an easy target. "The worst part," he said, his voice quiet, his gaze distant, "wasn't the pushing or the name-calling in the schoolyard. It was when they'd do it in front of my friends, the few I had. They'd make me feel small and worthless in front of the only people I thought I could trust. It made me feel contaminated. He took a breath. I can't ever go back to that feeling. He was laying his soul bare, handing me the key to his deepest vulnerability. And like a fool, a monster, I took it and filed it away, not as a treasure to protect, but as a weapon to be used later. My campaign to fix Holden started subtly. It was a slow, insidious creep, disguised as care. After a party on the ride home, I'd say something like, "You and Jessica seem to be having a great time. You were talking to her for like 20 minutes. I'd frame it as a playful observation, a little joke. Holden, being Holden, would just agree. Yeah, she's hilarious. She was telling me about her trip to Peru. He was conflict-averse to his core. He didn't see the test in my words, the demand for reassurance. He just saw a statement of fact. His lack of a defensive reaction, his simple honesty, should have soothed my anxiety. Instead, it fed the beast. See? He doesn't even realize he's doing anything wrong, the voice whispered. You have to be more direct, so I was. The jokes became concerns. I started calling it his social butterfly thing. After a dinner with my friends, I'd wait until we were in bed and then say, "You know, you don't have to try so hard to impress everyone. My friends already like you." It was a masterclass in passive aggression. I was framing my control as a favor to him, as if his natural charisma was some kind of burdensome performance he was putting on. He'd frown, confused. I wasn't trying to impress anyone, Addie. I was just talking. His confusion was my fuel. I took it as proof that he was naive, that he didn't understand how the world worked, how easily people could misinterpret his friendliness. I convinced myself I was protecting him, protecting us. The truth is, I was building a cage bar by bar and calling it a sanctuary. The real escalation happened at his work events. These were the moments my insecurity went into overdrive. He was a project manager at a construction firm, a field where relationships were everything. He was good at his job precisely because he was good with people. But when I saw him laughing with a female architect or sharing a joke with a client, I didn't see a professional building rapport. I saw a threat. At his company's annual awards dinner, he was deep in conversation with his boss and his boss's wife. He was animated, confident in his element. I watched from across the room, a knot of pure acid in my stomach. I walked over, slipped my arm through his, and plastered a saccharine smile on my face. "There you are," I said, leaning my head on his shoulder in a display of possessiveness. "Sorry to interrupt, but I have to steal him away. Holden gets so carried away telling his stories, he'll talk your ears off all night if I don't rescue you." I laughed, as if it were the most charming inside joke. His boss gave a polite, slightly awkward chuckle. Holden's arm tensed under my hand. His smile tightened. The light in his eyes, the one that was shining so brightly just moments before, dimmed. It was like watching a candle flicker in a sudden draft. And in that sick, twisted part of my brain, I felt a surge of victory. I had brought him back to me. I had put his light out for everyone else. The final act, the kill shot, happened at the wedding of our best friends, Rowan and Olivia. The reception was held in a beautifully restored barn, strung with thousands of fairy lights that glittered like a captured constellation. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days. Holden was the best man, and he looked so impossibly handsome in his tailored suit that my heart ached just looking at him. He delivered a speech that was the perfect mix of funny and heartfelt, earning both laughter and a few misty eyes from the crowd. He was in his element, a beacon of warmth and joy in a room already full of it, and I hated him for it. Throughout the reception, I felt that familiar, ugly anxiety clawing at my throat. I was playing the part of the proud, supportive girlfriend, smiling and nodding, but inside I was suffocating. Every person he laughed with, every friendly pat on the back he received, felt like a personal betrayal. My mind became a toxic echo chamber. Look at him, so charming, so alive. He doesn't need you. He's better without you. He's shining for them, not for you. The moment it all shattered is burned into my memory with the clarity of a lightning strike. He was standing near the bar, talking to one of Olivia's cousins from out of town, a woman I'd never met. She was pretty in an effortless, sunny way. Holden was leaning against the counter, listening intently to something she was saying. Then, She must have told a joke, because he threw his head back and laughed. It was that full-throated, genuine laugh. The one that used to be reserved for me, for our inside jokes on the sofa. The one I hadn't heard in our apartment in months. Something inside me snapped. It was pure, primal panic. The fear of being abandoned, of being the girl in the corner again, completely eclipsed any logic or love I had for him. I saw my future in that moment. Him, moving through life collecting light and laughter, and me, a forgotten shadow. I picked up a fresh glass of champagne from a passing tray, the cold glass a stark contrast to the heat flushing my skin. I walked over, my steps feeling strangely slow and deliberate, like I was moving through water. The joyful noise of the party seemed to fade into a dull buzz. My entire world narrowed to the three of them. Him, her, and me. I didn't even acknowledge the cousin. I wedged myself between them, pressing my back against Holden's chest, and looked up at him with a smile so sweet it must have looked grotesque. "Holden, honey," I cooed, my voice loud enough for the people nearby to hear. I reached up and straightened his already perfect tie, a gesture meant to look loving but feel like a leash. "Don't monopolize the handsome best man all night," I said, finally glancing at the cousin with a dismissive little laugh. Then I turned my eyes back to Holden, tilting my head, and I delivered the fatal line. "You should really spend more time with me. Otherwise, people might think you're already scouting for your next project, right?" The words hung in the air, thick and poisonous. It was a direct hit, calibrated with 2 years of knowledge of his deepest insecurities. I had taken his most painful childhood wound, the fear of being humiliated in front of people he trusted, and I had weaponized it. I did it at his best friend's wedding, in front of a stranger. I took his love and trust and used it to make him feel as small and worthless as those bullies did all those years ago. The change in him was instantaneous and terrifying. It wasn't explosive. There was no anger, no shouting. It was an implosion. The brilliant light in his eyes didn't just dim. It was extinguished, like a switch being flipped. The smile on his face didn't fall, it froze and then evaporated, leaving behind a blank, hollow mask. For a split second, he looked utterly lost, a stranger in his own skin. Then his gaze met mine, and for the first time in our relationship, I saw nothing there for me. No love, no frustration, not even anger. Just a deep, profound, and bottomless disappointment. It was the look you give someone you realize you never really knew at all. It was colder than any rage could ever be. He gently detached my hand from his tie. He turned to Olivia's cousin, his voice perfectly steady, betraying none of the internal devastation I knew I had caused. "It was a pleasure meeting you," he said, his tone polite and distant. "Please excuse me." He didn't look at me again, not once. He just turned and walked away, melting into the crowd of dancing guests. For the rest of the night, he was a ghost. He performed his duties as best man with a chilling sort of autopilot precision, but he was gone. He avoided me, not in a dramatic, obvious way, but with a quiet, devastating efficiency. If I walked toward his group, he would find a reason to be somewhere else. The drive home was silent. The oppressive quiet in the car was a living thing, pressing in on me from all sides. I kept waiting for the explosion, for the fight that would clear the air. I had my apologies and my justifications ready, but it never came. The next morning, everything seemed deceptively normal. He got up at his usual time. He showered. He made coffee. He didn't speak to me, but that wasn't entirely unusual for a weekday morning. I told myself it was fine. I told myself he was just hurt and needed time. I was already planning my evening campaign of reconciliation. I'd cook his favorite meal, open a bottle of wine, and we'd talk it through. I would make him understand. I went to work, clinging to that delusion. When I came home that evening, the apartment was silent. The first thing I noticed was the empty space on the shoe rack by the door where his running sneakers should have been. My heart gave a painful lurch. I walked into the living room. The corgi mug was gone. I rushed to the bedroom. The closet door was ajar, and his half was a cavern of empty hangers. His toiletries were gone from the bathroom, leaving a starkly clean countertop. No note, no text, no final, angry phone call, just a complete and total erasure. He had taken everything that was his and had simply, silently, vanished from my life. The numbness lasted for about an hour, a fragile shell of disbelief. Then the panic set in, not as a wave, but as a floodgate breaking. My first thought, my first desperate cling to denial, was that this was a grand, dramatic gesture. He's at a friend's place, I told myself. He's cooling off. He'll be back tomorrow, and we'll have the fight to end all fights, and then we'll make up. It was the story I repeated to myself, over and over, a frantic mantra against the screaming silence of the apartment. I started with his phone. The first call went straight to voicemail. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I tried again. Voicemail. My thumbs flew across my phone's screen, typing a text. "Holden, please just pick up. I know you're mad, and I am so sorry. We can talk about this." Delivered. No reply. I sent another, my composure starting to crack. "Where are you? You're scaring me." Still, only that cold, clinical delivered status stared back at me. My breathing grew shallow. I started messaging our mutual friends, trying to sound casual, breezy. "Hey, have you chatted with Holden today? His phone seems to be off." The replies were slow to come and evasive when they did. "Oh, hey, nah, haven't spoken to him today." They were lying. I could feel the dishonesty through the screen, the digital equivalent of refusing to make eye contact. Finally, in a fit of pure desperation, I called Rowan, the groom, his best friend. He answered on the third ring, but his voice was heavy with a weariness that felt ancient. It was the voice you use for a conversation you'd do anything to avoid. "Addie," he sighed, skipping the pretense of a hello. "Rowan, do you know where he is? He took all his stuff. He won't even answer my calls." My own voice was starting to tremble, the words catching in my throat. There was a long pause on his end of the line. I could hear the faint murmur of Olivia in the background, a soft, concerned sound. "Look, Addie," Rowan finally said, and his tone was devoid of sympathy, filled only with that awkward, painful distance. "I can't tell you where he is. He asked me not to, he needs some space." "Space?" I practically shrieked the word into the phone. "He vanished from our home, Rowan, and you're telling me he needs space." "We all saw it, Addie." His voice turned colder then, a shield of disappointment. "At the wedding. That was too much. He doesn't want to talk right now." That one sentence, "we all saw it," hit me like a physical blow. It confirmed my deepest fear. This wasn't a private fallout between two people. This was a public execution, and I was the one holding the axe. Rowan wasn't taking my side. He wasn't even taking Holden's side. He was just taking a giant step away from me. This neutrality, this desperate, awkward desire not to be involved, was more chilling, more isolating than any direct accusation could ever be. I hung up the phone, the dial tone buzzing in my ear. I felt like I'd been exiled to an island. The social circle I thought was ours had just quietly, politely, built a wall around me, leaving me utterly alone with the wreckage I'd created. And now I'm back where I started, on the sofa in the quiet. The coroner has completed her initial examination. The panic has subsided, leaving behind this vast, cold emptiness. I spent days trying to piece together his escape route, like a detective tracking a ghost, but all trails went cold. His family won't return my calls. His work email bounces back with an automated reply. He has surgically removed himself from my life with a precision that is both terrifying and, in a way, admirable. A few hours ago, looking for a book I couldn't possibly read, I found it. Tucked away on the highest shelf of the bookcase, behind a row of old college textbooks, was a thick manila folder. I didn't even know it was there. His handwriting was on the tab, "The Oak Street Project." My hands were trembling as I opened it. Inside wasn't just a fantasy. It was a plan. There were printouts from real estate websites of a small, two-story house about an hour outside the city. It had a big backyard and a porch swing. There were contractors' estimates for renovating the kitchen. There were paint swatches in soft blues and grays. And tucked in the back, on a piece of graph paper, was a floor plan he had sketched himself. He'd labeled the rooms, "Our room, office, guest room." And then the smallest room, the one at the end of the hall upstairs. He had drawn a tiny, clumsy picture of a crib inside it. He'd written "someday" next to it. This was his secret dream for us. A future he was building quietly, piece by piece, while I was busy tearing down our present. He never said a word. He was planning a life for us. A real, tangible life with a porch swing and a room for a child that didn't exist. And he never felt safe enough with me to even share it. The folder is on the coffee table now, next to the ghost of his corgi mug. Staring at it, the numbness finally cracks. But there are no tears. There is only this hollow, cycling thought. One moment, a flare of anger. How could he be so weak? To let one stupid sentence destroy all of this. The next, a wave of self-loathing so intense it makes me feel sick. You did this. You took his beautiful, secret dream and you stomped on it with dirty shoes. I pick up the sketch of the floor plan. I trace the little crib with my finger. And the autopsy is complete. Cause of death, 1,000 tiny cuts, followed by a single, perfectly aimed blow to the heart. And the coroner is also the murderer. And this quiet, empty apartment is my prison cell.